So many days we come here and Tim lifts us up and does that with so much flair and so much panache that you think it must have come absolutely easily to him. And it might be true, but I have seen Tim over the years and he adds so much, so many times to what we're doing. It's not just rote, it's Tim Smith. And we are really grateful, Tim. And happy birthday to everybody who's an American. We're coming up on the 4th in a couple of days, and I thought because we're coming up on the 4th, it'd be nice to take a historic speech, one that you have all heard before, and I won't quote the whole 1,355 words of John F. Kennedy's 1961 inaugural address, but I will do the few words that you know already, which is, ask not what your country can do for you, but ask what you can do for your country. You know, I watched that again this week just to get ready for this, and I thought this would he'd be laying out his declaration of intent to start the Peace Corps, or perhaps it was the Civil Rights Movement, or something very domestic. It was almost all about foreign policy. Maybe 100 words about domestic. However, what was remembered were those few words. And I think the reason they were so memorable is because it's really a calling that can distinguish us from heading on an extremely selfish route, one which will ultimately just be unsatisfying, toward one that can be difficult to actually do, but will ultimately be more satisfying. Mahatma Gandhi, who said, "Be the change you want to see in the world," also said these words: "The best way to find yourself is to lose yourself in the service of others." And I think if we can remember that, perhaps we can take the 4th of July as an invitation for us to honor the words of Kennedy and Mahatma Gandhi and to see what it is that is ours to do. Now, I don't want to make this about social work or working in a particular way, but to invite you to be service itself. And I think the way we do that is we have to remember something else. I think I have noticed in my prayers and in many people's prayers, what they're really asking is for God to do something for them. Have you noticed your prayers? God, get me out of this situation. God, put me in a situation. God, bring me something. Get me rid of something. But it's like that. It's like, Daddy, do this for me. And one of the things that I think is in the advanced philosophy that Unity has taken from Christianity, from its often, we have often used, let me just say, we've used religion to get something for a long time. You know, Abraham was the founder of the four monotheistic, three or four, I'll call it three, monotheistic religions: Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. Considered the founding father of those. And the most important story, which the Muslims are talking about today, or in this time period for their holiday, is the story of Abraham being willing to sacrifice his son. Now, I'm not really sure why this story made it, but it's a powerful story of a man willing to take his only son, the one who will be the father of nations, and sacrifice him to please God. I think over the last 3,000 years, we've advanced our philosophy a little bit. And we don't see that it's actually necessary to sacrifice to be of to serve or to worship or to join with the one presence. Instead, I think what really the one presence is about in our lives now is not so much about sacrifice, it is about us becoming living expressions of the one presence. And that living expression would be more godlike than human-like. The more we move in that direction, the more we exhibit the same qualities of the highest ideals we can come up with. We live from a place of open-heartedness and generosity. We live as though we are part of the human family and not separate from it, and that as we succeed, they succeed, and as they succeed, we succeed. This is a different form of honoring the divine than sacrifice. It means that we can grow and become powerful beings because we recognize our internal connection to the divine, because indeed, if that phrase, there is only one presence and one power, is true, it means that one presence and one power lives in this world exactly as you. What a bold statement. If there's only one presence, then every face you see is one expression of it. If there's only one presence, your hands and feet are the hands and feet of that presence. If there's only one presence and one power, how you think, feel, and act have godlike consequences in the world. So to be happy, to be loving, to be forgiving, to be of service to others, these are the qualities that we hope God will be doing for us all the time, right? And what this is saying is, ask not God to do that. Ask how you can do that. How can I be loving? How can I be forgiving? How can I be of service? How can I recognize in myself and others this one presence and honor it? And I don't need to sacrifice to do that. I need to expand. I need to feel that presence. I need to take some time on a regular basis to see if I can recognize the truth in that statement. There is only one presence, one power. If God is everywhere present, is there any way that you can do the math that it doesn't reside in you and as you? But we have this old theology still percolating through our minds that's saying that God is over there, sometimes needs to be appeased, but definitely is a bank account we hope to draw on. When indeed it's time for us, and indeed I think we are growing up, we're no longer just children, or as Jesus said, you're not simply servants, but heirs. That's a big difference, you know. You own this place. You're not just working for or asking for favors. You own this place. And if we will act like this is our inheritance, that we have been given divine qualities, intelligence, intuition, capacity to be compassionate, the ability to invent and to transform systems so that people can be more successful. We can also educate ourselves, awaken to our deeper knowledge of the nature of reality, but also the nature of what underlies the visible world. We can bring to this wonderful place where we are more God, but we have to be it, and we have to own it. And I think there are many methods of getting there. But setting that as one of your intents and realizing that that is a calling worthy of your time, thought, and effort. That is a calling that is you've been hearing about, but generally in disguised ways. Like there's something wrong with you is the classic Christian thought. There's something wrong with you. Inherently, you were born in sin as a sinner, and you need to be redeemed. You know who came up with that? It wasn't Jesus, as far as I can tell. Jesus didn't say, you were born into sin. I don't remember him saying that. I think basically he said, you're children of God. If you've seen me, you've seen God. If you've seen, I am the vine, you are the branches. I'm one with God. You're one with me. You must be one with God. A equals B, B equals C, A equals C. You know how it goes? This is who we really are. And we need to purge from our consciousness those phrases that have made us feel less than that. And we need to live out that promise that was made to us so long ago, that you are not servants but heirs. Let's talk just a minute about what the difference between a servant and an heir. A servant is told what to do. An heir can do it or not do it. An heir has access to resources. A servant does not. An heir is like, not dissimilar from the master. This is who you are. And you are that ever more as you attempt to be of service to others, to awaken to your divine nature, to give with no need for return, to be expansive in your love. This is when we're really in the game as heirs. And when we count, have I done more for you than you've done for me? I'm holding a grudge. I don't like you and therefore will not love you. I have felt injured by you and will not forgive. We withdraw from that inheritance when we do that. So it's really simple. Just be God-like and it'll all be okay. I also realize that basically we don't do it all the time, even if we intend to, right? So sometimes it's the first person to forgive is the person that stares back at you in the mirror, right? And I've had that moment in the last week where I looked in the mirror and I finally said, I should get off my case. Just admit it. You can't do it right now. You're not doing it. But that's it. Okay, that's it. That's you. You're just inadequate at this point. Granted, right, can't do it, can't take the steps I'm talking about. But then that passes. And the fatigue I was feeling, I think in part was because I was just so down on myself. Anybody here ever done that? And so one of the cures I did for feeling so crummy was I went over to somebody else's house who had been suffering more or less with a similar state of mind and did about 6 hours of repairs on their house. And what that did for me was it took me out of thinking just about myself. And granted, I didn't really like the work. But I ended the day in a better mood than I started. And as studies have shown, if you do something for somebody else, one of the things that happens when you do something for somebody else is your mood goes up. That's good, that your mood goes up when you do something for someone else. I remember I was between ministries 21 years ago. and I went to a soup kitchen to work. And I had been trying to do interviews and those interviews were always first interviews by phone. And I must admit, I must have been the worst person at interview because first time I went out for ministry, I had like 5 offers. This time I couldn't buy a vowel. Nobody. I'll tell you a funny story about that. I thought I would go to Key West. That sounded like a fun assignment. So I was doing the phone interview with him, and I was listening to the man who was doing the talking. The board was on speaker, but no one was speaking but him. And I was trying to match his energy, and it turned out he was a banker. And everybody else was more of a comedian. And so when I matched his energy, which was pretty slow, not too, and fairly serious, then I got on the phone with everybody else, and they started cracking jokes, and I went, one more scratch. This thing about when you help others and you feel better, it should be a hint to us, don't you think? That there's something inherent about us as communal beasts, if not divine beings. That we need to be of service to others, or somehow the internal organization of our psyche doesn't get along with it. To be completely self-centered way too much can be really detrimental to your health. Physiologically, it's not good for you. And being of service is good for you. There's something I would really like us to do here, which is we came back from the pandemic, and we're just kind of ramping up our volunteering. If you're thinking, how can I help? There's Barbara Holloman is our volunteer coordinator, but anybody on staff would be happy to tell you where to go. So please consider that. But there's one more way I think you could be helpful. You probably know somebody in your circle who could use something to lift them up. Something other than doing house repairs. That somewhere their mind has gotten stuck. And they can't seem to break out of the mood they're in, or they want to improve and they don't know how, or they're lonely. Or they want to be in a community and they don't have enough of it. And we sit like we're sitting on riches, and we go, I really think this is a very special place, but I'm going to keep it a secret. I'm going to ask you not to do that. I'm going to ask you to step out and ask somebody. I'll tell you, one of the things that would help this church, right now we have, 145, 150 people in here. This church was built for 300 people or more. So what it means is that the burden of supporting all that we do here will land on you as 150 versus 300 if you bring somebody else. If you bring 2 people, think how light your load will be. But that, I think, is the beauty of community as we expand and do service. And service doesn't have to be like doing housework for somebody. Service can be meeting them where they are. A beautiful note, a compassionate look, a word of encouragement, a reference to a solution that they have not thought of. Just saying, I'm sorry, at the right moment. This kind of thing is service as well. Speaking honestly can also fall into that category. Sometimes we refuse to show up. Maybe we don't think they care. Maybe we don't think it matters. But when you tell the truth about yourself or about a situation or whatever, in a compassionate way, you allow something new to emerge. It's like planting a seed that can grow and become something new. As we hide from others our truth, we don't necessarily always improve their life. Sometimes we steal from them without even knowing we're doing it. To be honest and to be willing to be honest with wisdom, of course, and with compassion and with a sensitivity to their needs. But when we can find a way to tell the truth, we begin to expand the truth as it is in the world, and it becomes a better place. Think of all the ways that you can be compassionate to someone else. And see if in the next 10 days, 2 weeks, you don't find a way to try at least 3 or 4 of them, maybe some new ones. Maybe you've been pretty good about cutting your neighbor's lawn because they can't get out, or you've been bringing food, but you failed to say, I love you when you did it. Or maybe it's somebody in your family who you haven't been able to get along with. And you don't know how to do it, so you can just say a prayer for them. Say a prayer in such a way that you go, I hope you become happy. I hope you have peace. If there's something I've done, I hope you can forgive me. I forgive you. Let it be an internal vibration that you carry, that you look upon the world and you say to everyone you meet, you are part of me, and by that, I extend my grace to you. Have you ever been in the grocery store and seen someone whose heart is breaking, or they're depressed, or they're counting their change and then putting something back because they can't afford it? A couple of places just to drop a buck, but also a place to add a prayer. You know, we are that divine being that is everywhere present, but uses our voice, our hands to do its work. And so on the 4th of July, when we celebrate what a few people were able to accomplish against the mightiest empire on earth at the time, to defeat the British with not even the whole of the United States population in favor of separating, what a few people can do can ripple out for hundreds of years and create one of the greatest nations that has ever been. If we will take high ideals as they did and incorporate them into our basic constitution of how we choose to live, while we may not know the extent of those gifts on the person we're doing it for or the generations after, if we will take this birthday as our own, to be a divine expression, then this celebration will be a celebration indeed. And this holiday will be a holiday in which we can remember, I made a decision. I will do more. And when I fail, I will forgive myself. And when I succeed, I will be happy. Let us pray. Let's give thanks. Let's start with that. Give thanks that we have a body that allows us to do and be and play out in so many ways the potential our potential can be used in millions of ways. Let us be wise and artful in how we do it. May we remember that others are ourself looking back at us. May we open our hearts to ourselves and to others. Be compassionate to ourselves and others. Be respectful to ourselves and others. Be generous. Be kind. And when we look upon the face of another, may we do our best to open our heart so that our face says, "You are loved and welcome here." And may we realize that we did not get here by ourselves, but many, many people, through their gifts of kindness, respect, teaching, abundance, helped us to be who we are. We're lucky to be here, to be in a country that aspires to be great. To know that if we try, we will be given the freedom to improve. Let us start with gratitude, and let us end in love. And so it is. Amen. I hope you got something out of today's service. We intend to bring you things that will help you in your life become more of who you want to be, give you the freedom of forgiveness and the hope of expectancy that your life will unfold in a way that brings you joy, happiness, and is a contribution to the world. If you would like to contribute to this ministry, please go to unitytriangle.org, hit the donate button, and it will lead you into an easy way of doing that. We thank you for your attention and look forward to seeing you again here.